Officials say they'd really like to help, but can't. So why not?
Yeah, just one question we have about a home in Delaware County where squatters took over. ABC6's Tom Bosco. Latest to right now from the perspective of the home next door. And Tom, this has got to be rough for these folks.
It really is. It's something they've been dealing with for years, Bob and Stacia. We are here in the home of Jennifer, the next door neighbor. We're right in her kitchen. She called us after she called every other agency she could think of. So what is she calling about? Well, what she can see out of her kitchen window, this view that she has seen for the last couple of years.
Jennifer Stauffer has fond memories of her former next-door neighbor, Charlotte Sewell, who died in 2021.
She was the sweetest, but if you crossed her, boy, watch out.
It's hard to know what Charlotte Sewell would feel about what's happened at her house since her death.
This is what we look at every day. This is the front of their house. This is the piles of trash and junk that they've put out here. You see a bike, you see furniture, coolers, junk, trash, whatever, and they throw their trash out the door.
Charlotte Sewell's son moved in, and Jennifer claims he brought some unsavory characters with him.
20 to 30 people at any given time. At one point, there was probably 12 people. They were living in the pole barn. They were living in a camper. Some are living in cars out in the front in the driveway.
Some of them were living here, a makeshift tent in the backyard.
This is the tarp house. That's where a 13-year-old boy and his father lived.
Jennifer suspected drugs and prostitution and called 911 numerous times.
They're out there arguing. I can hear they're walking around right now with flashlights because they have no electric in the house.
Sheriff's logs showed deputies were called and came out to the home more than 40 times since Charlotte's death in 2021. And then this happened. The barn out back burned.
November 30th last year, this went up in flames.
Jennifer caught it all on her phone.
We were just hoping that maybe the house would catch fire too, so it would be gone. We'd be done with all this.
Right. I decided to knock on the door. There was so much trash on the front porch that I could barely reach it. No one answered. Jennifer has called everyone she can think of, including ABC6 on your side.
We called the sheriff several times. We called the health department. We called, you name it, whoever we could get to listen to us.
Health department records show complaints about the trash, about weeds, odors, and even people defecating outside. Neighbors called Harlem Township as well. In fact, the home was mentioned at trustees meetings at least 8 times in the last 2 years.
Oh, I'm very frustrated.
Mike Cannon is the zoning director. He's heard the complaints and he's confronted the people who have lived here.
I knocked on the door and waited and waited and waited, and probably finally after about 5 minutes, somebody opened the door about this far.
The person who opened the door told Cannon they were not the owner, so Cannon dropped off a business card and left. So the question is, who is the owner? The auditor's office says the home is owned by Mervyn and Charlotte Sewell, but both of them are deceased. What about next of kin? The Sewell's son, who had moved in, no longer lives there. In fact, he's in the Delaware County Jail on drug charges after deputies caught him at the property with meth in his pocket. Township officials were told the home is tied up in probate court and that they can't do anything.
It's frustrating to have a resident call me and have an issue like that in the township that you can do nothing with. It's like your hands are tied.
But officials with Delaware County Probate Court say there have been no claims made on the house and there are no active probate cases in Delaware County. No living owner, no next of kin, a situation perfect for squatters. Jennifer Stauffer just wants the mess to go away.
I want the property cleaned up. I want someone to take ownership of it and just do the right thing. This is ridiculous. Nobody should have to go through this.
When we showed up at the home to bring you part 1 of this report, sheriff's deputies were there, and so were people going in and out of the house. Do you own the place? Are you the owner? Do you live here? Folks there admitted they don't live at the home and they don't own it. They told me they were cleaning stuff out of the house and told me it was none of my concern. It's certainly the concern of folks in this neighborhood. So, the owners of record are deceased. How about their next of kin? The couple had 2 sons. One of them would not return my calls or emails. The other we found in the Delaware County Jail. We sat down in the jail with David Sherman last week.
It was great. I had a good childhood.
Sherman says he enjoyed growing up at the home. He claims his brother doesn't want the house and that the family wanted David to have the house.
It was my mom's wishes that, that I lived there. And for years, it was a running joke of hers that all this is yours.
David moved into the home after his mother died. He admits he brought a number of folks with him, like his girlfriend and her family, living in this makeshift tent in the backyard. Another friend lived in a camper, which eventually burned and took the barn out back with it. In the meantime, Sherman is in jail on a felony drug charge. During one of the more than 40 trips to the home by sheriff's deputies, he was caught with meth in his pocket. He's been in jail since last summer, yet his friends were still in the home.
With you here in the jail, do you think those people then have a right to stay there in that house?
Yes, I think they had a right to be there.
They're not owners, they don't have a rental agreement, they're not next of kin even. Would you call them squatters?
I wouldn't call my girlfriend squatter because they had my permission to be there.
David says he hopes to own the home legally. He'd need to file an estate in probate court. Currently, there are no claims to the home in probate. In another twist surrounding the property, earlier this year, it appeared someone else wanted the house too. The Delaware County Recorder's Office shows a document in which a home buying company entered into a contract with Charlotte Sewell, David's mother, who died in 2021. Delaware County Prosecutor's Office told me it's looking into that contract. In the meantime, David Sherman has about a month left on his sentence. He's promising to deal with the house when he gets out of jail.
First thing I need to do when I get out of here with the property is to get an attorney and to get the probate issue started. I've made quite a few, bad decisions, but hopefully that, has come to an end.
So you want to get yourself clean and then you want to get the property clean?
Yeah, that is my intention. Almost feels like I'm still in jail. Only this one's worse.
David Sherman just got out of jail, but his home doesn't feel like home. That's because of the people living there, squatters, who he wants out. When you got here, what'd you find?
That there was a bunch of people and they were stealing everything that they could.
He says his so-called friends even shot up his car and tore parts off of it to sell. Can you just tell them to go away?
I've tried. There's nothing I can do, right? Legally.
David says it's so bad that less than 2 weeks after he returned, he had to call 911. Or rather, his neighbor called for him since David doesn't have a phone.
They're stealing everything, and he is concerned about his well-being. He knows them. He allowed them to be on the property while he was in jail, and he is now wanting them gone and everyone on the property gone.
Delaware County Sheriff's deputies arrested 2 men that night, both for parole violations. But more people are still living there.
How many people are staying here at this house?
I'd say since 2 of them went to jail, I think it's 5, plus me. I don't even feel like I live here.
Here's the thing, though. It's not his house. David Sherman is not the legal owner. He's the next of kin, to be sure, but he still has to go to probate court and make a claim to the property. Now, he's in the same boat as his beleaguered neighbors. He wants the squatters out. But with virtually nothing to his name after his jail stint, he may not have the means to hire an attorney.
As soon as I get the probate started, I can, file for eviction. That's all I want to do is, get this in my name so I can just sell it.
After the owner died and her son moved in, police were often here. People were sleeping outside the home. And there was even a fire that destroyed a pole barn. The son of the deceased owner, David Sherman, ended up in jail on drugs, but pledged to clean things up.
So you want to get yourself clean and then you want to get the property clean?
Yeah, that is my intention.
Some news here. Sherman is out of jail. The home is in probate court to sort out who will get ownership, and the sheriff hasn't been called in months. Neighbor Jennifer Stauffer says she's glad she called us for help.
It got some people going, we need to do something now, or maybe we'll be held accountable for something.
So you might think this is where the story ends, but this story continues to reveal twists and turns. For this next part, we need to take you back to our visit to this house back in April. Stay at the street. Back on April 29th, we showed up at this home and found these two people moving things in and out. Remember, the son of the deceased owner was in jail at the time, so these people shouldn't have been there. We tried to find out what they were doing. You're helping clean up the place? Who are you helping clean up? After this part of the story aired a few weeks later, we got a call from a woman who recognized this man.
100%, it was him.
Elizabeth Anderson says this is her son, Benjamin. It's also the last known footage of him alive.
I'd like to report a dead body.
12 hours after he was seen on our camera in Delaware County, a neighbor found 44-year-old Benjamin Anderson right here, dead in his pickup truck in this alley on the south side of Columbus, 22 miles from where he was seen the night before.
There's a man in here, I'm pretty sure he's passed away.
This is Columbus police body camera footage. Anderson was found not in the driver's seat, but on the passenger side of his truck, and not in a natural position.
I don't know how he got on the floorboard like he is. Like, he's on the floorboard on his knees. His torso and face is up on the middle seat. His face is down in the middle seat.
He was literally stuffed into that small floor space on the floor.
Police on the scene suspected a drug overdose.
Hey, he's got a dope bag right there.
And the coroner later confirmed it, saying he had a mixture of fentanyl, cocaine, and meth in his system. Sheriff's deputies had been called to the Delaware County home the night before on a report of a fight, but the injuries to Benjamin's body were described as injuries from someone providing CPR. None of this sounded right to his mother. Even officers on the scene thought his position in the truck was suspicious. Listen to their comments.
OD. Yeah, he's in a weird position.
It's weird for him to be in that position with the overdose.
Even the woman who found Anderson's body was suspicious.
If it's his truck, I'm kind of wondering why he's like that.
Those officers considered calling homicide detectives, but did not. The coroner called it an accidental overdose. Now comes another twist in this case. In a move that is considered uncommon, the Franklin County coroner has changed the manner of death in this case. In the death of Benjamin Anderson, the cause of death is still an overdose, but instead of an accidental overdose, the coroner now calls it undetermined. Can you point to anything specific that led to the changing of the manner of death in the Anderson case?
I don't want to speak to further investigation since it's still an open investigation.
One thing that helped change investigators' minds, hearing from Elizabeth Anderson on her concerns and suspicions about how her son Benjamin was found in his truck.
I was elated that I was able to get them to actually listen to, my story.
So what happens now? The coroner has notified Columbus Police of the change.
It's a simple notification that the manner of death has changed, and they can do with that what they please.
Elizabeth says she hopes Columbus Police will investigate further. She wants to know how her son got from this home in Delaware County to this alley on the south side of Columbus, dead in his truck.
There had to have been more than one person involved because they transported him and then left the truck, so they had to leave in a different vehicle. So there was more than one person.
For this mother, the search for answers continues.
But the way he was disposed of is a clear crime. And everybody knew that when they saw him. So at the very minimum, I want the people that did that to pay for what they've done. And I want to be able to look at them and know that it was my son that you treated that way.
Columbus Police got back to us and tell us that despite the fact that the manner of death changed in this case, they have no intentions of reopening this investigation. Elizabeth Anderson tells me that's a disappointment, but she says she's hopeful that by us telling her son's story, that will prompt someone who was with Benjamin Anderson in his final hours to come forward and tell police what they know. On your side in downtown Columbus, I'm Tom Bosco, ABC 6 News.